Hey friends, welcome back to She's at It Again. Today we're going to be making sour cream chicken enchiladas. I already have my chicken cooked. I already have my tortillas made. I have my cheese shredded. So let's go over to the stovetop. Let's make some sauce to put on these because the end part, rolling them up and putting the sauce on, that's pretty quick. Baking them off, that's going to be in a couple of days. But let's get started on our sauce for now. Okay, over here at the stovetop, I am going to turn my burner on medium-ish, medium-low. That's what I'm going to turn on. First thing we want to do is put some olive oil in our saucepan. You don't really need a saucepan this big, but I'm just going with that because I'd rather have one too big than too small and start sloshing it out. That's kind of a no-brainer. You are welcome to use butter, or you are welcome to use a combination of olive oil and butter together. We're going to go with about 4 to 6 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm not trying to be a know-it-all by not measuring it. I just don't want to mess up a measuring cup. I'm too lazy to wash it. I can eyeball 4 tablespoons of olive oil, I'm pretty sure. Okay, next thing we want to put in this is about equal amount of just plain flour. Basically what we're doing is making a roux, which is spelled R-O-U-X, and it's the beginning for gravy or a sauce of just about any kind. It's a fat and a flour, and that together, when you cook it, makes a thickener. Then you add your liquid to it, which would be a milk or a broth of some kind, and that makes a gravy. The reason you want to cook this and not skipping this stage is because you want to cook that flour flavor out. If you've ever had raw flour in your mouth, number one, don't do that. They don't recommend that. But you know the difference in a cooked flour and raw flour. It would be like having like a raw breading on something that's supposed to be deep fried, and you've bitten into it and you're like, that doesn't taste, no, that doesn't taste cooked. Well, this doesn't taste cooked if you don't go through this stage of getting it really hot, making sure it's kind of bubbly, and cooking that flour flavor out. My grandmother used to tell me that. I'd say, Nana, why do you have to cook it? Just start adding your other stuff to it. It'll heat up eventually. And she said, she called me sister. No, sister. You got to cook that flour taste out. And I'm thinking, why are you adding it to it if you're going to cook all the taste out? Of course, as a kid, you just think everything's about taste. But there's a purpose in the flour, and it's not necessarily the taste. All right, our mixture's already sizzling a bit. Let me show you with this camera. Hopefully I'm not washing it out with this light. I've turned this light on as low as it'll go, but sometimes it's still too shiny. All right, I still think I'm going to add a little bit more flour to that. Okay, when it starts looking like that, let me see if I can get a good picture of this. It looks a little thicker. That's what we want it to look like. And again, you're just cooking it long enough to get that flour taste out, but I don't really know how to explain that to you other than the entire surface needs to be bubbly, not just one part of the surface of it. All right, at this point, once it starts getting super bubbly, I have 2 cups of homemade just chicken bone broth in this. I just cooked my chicken the other day. And as we stir this, you'll notice the entire mixture starts getting thick, like a gravy. I'm going to open my can of green chilies. These are just diced green chilies. Even though I already have my chicken cooked and I have my tortillas made, we will link a video that shows you detailed instructions, kind of a comprehensive instruction on how to make flour tortillas. You don't use a tortilla press, so don't worry about if you don't have the fancy gadgets for the kitchen. You need a rolling pin or something to press them out with as far as rolling them. Not press, rolling. You're not pressing them, you're rolling them. All right, I think you can see on this other camera up here that our mixture is getting thick. It looks like a pudding right now. Show you what this looks like from here. That. Perfect. All right, at this point we want to turn off our burner. We can even take it off the burner if the residual heat is too much. I think we can safely say we've cooked all the flour taste out of that. And I probably put too much flour in it, but that's okay. It's enchiladas. Nobody's going to go, this is too thick. There's no such thing. Well, almost. All right, take it off the heat. I'm going to add in my 1 small can of green chilies. Now, if you like green chilies a lot, and I do, you can put a bigger can in there. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm following directions for the sake of directions. This is a recipe I've had for several years. The only thing I changed was I went from regular yellow onion to putting green onions in this. I think the flavor is going to be nicer. But as far as everything else, it's kept the same. This is my sister's recipe from years ago. When I say years, I mean like before any of us were married. So, but it makes a big batch of enchiladas because we just, and especially her, she doesn't know how to make small batches of too many things. Okay, that already smells fabulous because of those green chilies in there. All right, I'm going to put about 2 cups of sour cream in this as well. And as you can tell, I'm just eyeballing that too. Give that a stir. We're going to add a few spices to this. We're going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Let's see, I think I want to put my salt in first because my garlic powder will stick to my spoon. Yeah, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. We need a teaspoon of dried cumin, which is this right here. Make sure it's, there you go. Had to get it in focus. And a teaspoon of chili powder. I would say the chili powder is optional. I mean, really most of it is optional, but the chili powder especially would be optional. Let me see, I think my chili powder is up here. Ah, here it is. I have homemade chili powder, but you can buy store-bought chili powder. Let's get that in focus. There we go. Okay, so this is our sauce, and all you do is mix it together at this point, and I'm going to put my, oops, took that out and didn't put it back. I'm going to put my green onions in there. We're putting about a cup, around a cup. My sister and I were just texting about this yesterday. She said, I remember as a kid I didn't like onions, and I said, oh, I couldn't stand, or we're talking about green onions in particular. I said, I would almost cry. Of course, I wasn't much of a crier, but I would almost cry when we'd go to a restaurant or somebody's house and they would set something down, a dish of something, and I would see onions all over it because I'm thinking, those are so bad, and I'm either going to have to choke it down or covertly pick them off to where it doesn't look offensive to the hostess. I was just so distraught by it. But it's almost like one day when I was an older teenager, I woke up and was like, you know what? I think I like green onions. I don't know what I had them on, but I just decided that I liked the flavor of them. Maybe it was baked potato soup because I really, really like green onions in my baked potato soup. It just makes such a huge difference. But I think they're delightful, and I had a friend over the other day and took her out and showed her my little fake garden outside. Not really fake, but just it's just a big long flower bed is all it is. But I was showing her my green onions, and I said, anytime I have to buy green onions, like to cater an event or make a big batch of something for somebody, if I go buy organic green onions, I just chop the white part off and I stick it aside, and then I go plunk them in the ground, and there I've always got green onions. And she thought that was so funny. She said, you just don't waste anything. Nope, you're right. I don't waste anything. Okay, I'm over there stirring away and didn't even have the camera pointed at that, so sorry about that. This is what this mixture looks like. Oh, that's probably too light. This is what our mixture looks like. It is thick and beautiful. So we're going to set this aside. I'm going to reset the cameras up over here, and we're going to get our enchiladas assembled. All right, I have everything else pre-shredded, pre-cooked. I don't have my chicken all chopped up, but I've got my tortillas made. I'll show you what these look like. This is my tortillas, and that's about how round they come out. Not perfect, so you don't have to be perfect with making tortillas. Now the first thing we want to do is take some of our mixture. This will be more than what this pan can hold, so I'll make an additional pan and send to somebody else, but this will just be for us to enjoy with friends. So we're going to put some of our mixture in the bottom to prevent the enchiladas from sticking. So just a good swish of the sauce in the bottom. And all we're going to do, each one, oh, I forgot I left the gizzards and the liver and heart in there to chop up for my doggies. All right, so we're just going to chop up our chicken just a bit at a time so as not to make a huge mess. And this is Monterey Jack. I shredded about 4 cups of Monterey Jack, and I shredded about 2 cups of cheddar. This is more than what the recipe calls for because I just don't believe on skimping on the cheese. Just no need for it. Okay, so inside your enchilada, really all it is chicken and cheese. Roll these up tight. Put the seam side down, and if it unrolls, make sure it will roll toward you instead of away, otherwise it's going to get away from you in the pan. I'll have chicken left over to cook soup or something else too. I just happened to go to the store the other day and I walked by the meat section and I was looking for something else and they had an organic chicken marked down. So I couldn't pass it up. I brought it home and I cooked it in my slow cooker all day. I took it out the next morning after it cooled off and deboned it. And then I filled it back up with water and a little bit of cider vinegar and the bones and the skin from the chicken. I did the same thing for another day. So I made 3 crock pots full, a 6-quart crock pot full of chicken, and then 1 of chicken and 2 of bone broth. So None of that chicken went to waste, because even after it was over, I put all the bones and the leftover bone broth in my high-speed blender, my Vitamix, and pureed it up, and that's what I pour over my doggies' food as a special treat. All right, so as repetitious as this sounds, we're just going to do the rest of these enchiladas just like this. Okay, here's what this looks like. Like I said, I'll use the rest of this chicken and tortillas and stuff to make some enchiladas to send to somebody else. We're going to put some of the rest of the sauce on here. Now, I'm not going to be making this tonight. It'll be a few days before we eat this, but I will cover it with parchment and probably aluminum foil over that. Take a little bit of this Monterey Jack and put on the top. And that'll keep the parchment from sticking to that sauce so much too. And then we're going to take our cheddar and put on top of that. Now, right before I serve this, I may sprinkle some fresh cilantro over the top of it. But if you don't like cilantro, I get that. Some people just don't. They say it tastes just horribly bitter. So just skip that part or cut up some fresh cilantro and put it at the table for people to add to their individual servings. Always a good idea. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now I need to make sure I video the final product. But for now, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for investing time in checking out these recipes. I hope you enjoy them. But we also look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. But final product will just be videoed, no talking during it. So bye, guys.